beauty. Special delivery from a special bowler.
Hello and welcome to the latest episode of PakPassion's exclusive cricket review show, View from the Pavilion. I'm Shayan, and this week I'm joined by Sami, and we will be discussing the latest in the world of Pakistan cricket. In particular, we'll be focusing on the 30-man squad selected by Pakistan for the Champions Trophy, the ongoing President's One Day Cup that is taking place around Pakistan, as well as a topic that's very difficult to ignore, unfortunately, at this time of year, and that is the IPL. So let's start with the Champions Trophy squad. First of all, was it as expected? Were you surprised by any of the names announced by the PCB, or were you happy with the 30 men that were expected to produce in the Champions Trophy?
Well, the PCB's 30-man squad looked okay. I don't think there were any significant omissions or inclusions that were unexpected. Perhaps the most notable omission was, of course, Yunus Khan, who, in all honesty, deserved to be dropped. He'd been in such poor form over the last, not just over the South Africa series, but over the last 5 years, that it was almost inevitable that he was going to be left out, and I think the PCB made the right decision in doing that. In some instances, you can say it comes down to poor form, but I think Yunus Khan has exhibited such an inability to adapt to the one-day game over the last decade or so that it's the right to leave him out and give, hopefully, a younger player a chance. What are your thoughts on Yunus Khan?
Well, I'm a fan of Yunus Khan generally. I realise that he's been out of form a lot in the one-day arena, and yeah, he did deserve to be dropped. I think what surprises me a lot is that I do remember back a few years ago now when Yunus and Yusuf used to have these partnerships in test matches where they were able to rotate the strike really, really well, even in a test match. Yunus really seems to struggle to do that now. He can't seem to get off strike easily and pick up the singles and rotate the strike, and that's been a problem for Pakistan. And with someone like Misbah-ul-Haq in the team as well, both of whom are slightly defensive players, it becomes a problem if you're not rotating the strike. And obviously we've seen lots of famous instances where they've struggled, and then Pakistan have lost games because of it. So I agree that Yunus Khan's dropping was fair enough. I think there are other people in the squad that perhaps also should count themselves lucky that their poor form hasn't cost them a place in that squad, but Yunus Khan I think deserved to go. One person who I did want to pick up on was Raza Hassan. I mean, he obviously played in that 2020 World Cup not so long ago, and he was impressed everyone, and yet he's finds himself out of favour. What are your thoughts on that? I don't think it doesn't seem fair on him.
No, but I'm okay with leaving Raza Hassan out, to be honest, because he's coming back from quite a serious injury. He hasn't been in great form in domestic cricket, and it's very difficult to pick 2 or 3 specialist spinners in English conditions. You have to be able to bat. So someone like, I know you might get some stick for this, but someone who can bat like Shahid Afridi, like Shoaib Malik, to complement the specialist spin of Saeed Ajmal is probably more important than having 2 specialist spinners.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, and I think that comes down to my point before where I said that some people perhaps are quite lucky to have made it, and perhaps that's one of the reasons. Shahid Afridi is obviously that one innings that he played in South Africa. Yep. Perhaps that has pushed him into selection again.
The other one is Umar Gul being left out, or potentially being left out. I know there's a lot of talk about his poor form, but at the moment he's doubtful through injury. What are your views on Umar Gul?
I still think he's the leader of the Pakistan pace attack at the moment. I agree that he's not really perhaps fulfilled his potential, but especially in ODIs and T20s, ODIs and Test matches and T20s, he's been, he showed good form throughout. I do think that a fast bowling lineup of say Gul, Junaid and Irfan would be our first choice pace attack at the moment, even though yes, Gul has been out of form and some people will want him to be dropped, but I do think he is the leader of the attack at the moment, and he should be there if he's fit. What do you think?
I definitely agree with that. I'd pick those 3 bowlers, and Umar Gul is a bowler who's historically done well in England, particularly in limited overs cricket. There's a lot of criticism when it comes to Gul, and there's also thoughts that the new 2-ball rule in one-day cricket has affected him, but he got reverse swing in the 2009 World T20, so if you can do it in 20 overs, you can certainly do it in one-day cricket. I think he's quite an important bowler in England.
Absolutely, yeah, I agree. Just moving on to, again, a point about our pace attack. We've heard that Wasim Akram is going to be holding a camp, I think it begins on the 20th of this month, with our pace bowlers. How advantageous do you think that's going to be, especially considering we have the likes of Irfan, Junaid, Wahab, a lot of left-armers coming through?
I think only time will tell. There's been a lot of great bowlers who haven't made great coaches, and there's a lot of great coaches who haven't been great bowlers. But it can't do any harm to work with probably a bowler who could do more with the ball than probably any other one in history. So, in particular, Junaid can benefit from working with Wasim. Mohammad Irfan's a slightly different type of bowler. But Junaid and Wahab, both players who look to seam and swing the ball, hopefully will benefit from his experience. What are your thoughts?
I just think it can't do any harm, put it that way. Everyone who has had any sort of tips from Wasim Akram in the past have commented very favourably on his coaching. So I just think that he knows what he's doing. He's not one of those who was a great bowler and isn't a great coach. I think he is a good coach. Unfortunately, other commitments have meant that he perhaps hasn't had the time for Pakistan cricket that we would have liked. But you know, if he spends a little time with our bowlers and we get any sort of improvement, then I think that'll be good for them.
I'd quite like to see a bowl-off between Wasim and the rest of them, actually, because wasn't it Ian Morgan that said that he was still the best bowler he's faced in the nets?
Yeah, that was during the IPL, I think, for the Knight Riders, I think, when he was the bowling coach. He did say he was the best one he'd faced. Yeah, exactly. It would be very interesting what Wasim Akram could still do on the pitch.
Has he retired yet? He might come back.
I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure that he's probably done. Just moving on to the President's Cup now that is taking place. A lot of interest in this, particularly as the selectors have specifically said that performances in this tournament will count towards Champions Trophy selection. Anybody in particular that has stood out for you?
It's not a tournament that I've followed too closely, but there have been a couple of positives. In particular, Misbah's batted quite well. It's always important for a captain to be in good form. We saw his good form in South Africa too, so it looks like he'll come into the Champions Trophy with confidence. It's always important as I said, important for a captain to be confident. Yunus Khan, I think we sometimes forget, was one of the top run scorers in the 2009 World T20, and it'll be interesting to see whether Misbah can translate his form into the Champions Trophy.
Yeah, well, everyone knows my thoughts on Misbah. I mean, I'm the one who wrote the article recently about basically how good he is. And
very good article, by the way.
Yeah,
I enjoyed reading it.
Thank you. Yeah, exactly. I think it's amazing how Misbah's just suddenly, from the South Africa series to now, he's just effectively become Pakistan's best batsman in the shorter format. He was the best batsman in South Africa in the one-day series. He was the best batsman in the 2020 domestic tournament, and he's getting runs again here. It's good to see. It shows that he's still got it in him, and I think he's a very important part of the one-day team at the moment.
Maybe that's why they're leaving Umar Akmal out, because Misbah quite enjoys being the best batsman in the one-day team.
Yeah, controversial. Right. Speaking of Umar Akmal, actually, there's a lot of middle-order options now. I noticed that Shafiq has been getting some runs in this tournament. Umar Amin has just got 100 today. Obviously, you're a big fan of Umar Akmal. Do you think that there's going to be competition from these players to get ahead of Akmal in the pecking order?
Umar Akmal, he's proven that he can score runs consistently in the one-day format. I still think he's, if not the best Pakistani one-day batsman, he's definitely one of the top two, and should certainly be batting number 4. So he should replace Yunus Khan up there. It's quite often not the way Pakistani cricket works. It would probably be someone like Shoaib Malik batting up there.
Yeah.
But Umar Akmal should certainly go there. And I'd actually go for Umar Amin to make his comeback in the team in this tournament as well. How about you? Which two would you go for?
In terms of, obviously, the players who I feel that from here that should be selected, I mentioned Raza Hassan already. I do think that he could be a sort of wild card, even though he's not in the 30-man squad. They said that somebody from outside could still get selected. The other I'd actually potentially go for is Azhar Ali. I do think that he's got some runs again, I think, today or the other day, and he could potentially be somebody who they might throw in at the top of the order in the English conditions. You know, the players that we've got at the moment, Hafiz and Jamshed, they are slightly flashier sort of players, and the last thing we want is a couple of early wickets. So I do think Azhar could be there. On the other hand, just to point out that Ahmed Shahzad is the other one that I do think that a lot of people are backing. He's shown that in that 2020 that he played that he's a very aggressive player. I don't know whether the English conditions will suit him, which is why I think I'd choose Azhar Ali as a shoe-in really for that squad.
And can we just mention Usman Salahuddin as well, because I think PakPassion posters will have our heads if we don't mention him.
Absolutely.
As a potential.
Yeah, exactly. He's another one who could be chucked into that middle order, which is actually quite good to see, really. There's quite a lot of competition in that middle order. One other point I just wanted to mention, Wahab Riaz took 3 for 61 today, and I did a tweet from the PakPassion account saying that they were impressive bowling figures, and I got a lot of responses saying that 3 for 61 is not impressive. What do you think of that?
Well, we've heard Shahid Afridi say recently that 0 for 61 for a spinner was not bad, given the fielding restrictions in one-day cricket. So 3 for 61 can't be too bad. I don't mind Wahab Riaz. I think he gets a lot of stick for being inaccurate, but he bowls quite a few wicket-taking deliveries, enough to definitely be on the fringes of the Pakistan team.
Absolutely. I go back to 1992, and Imran Khan gets all this credit for saying that I don't care how many runs you give away to Mushtaq and Wasim, I just want to get wickets. So surely we could use that sort of philosophy now. If somebody's taking wickets and is a bit expensive, you know, the great Imran Khan said that was all right. So perhaps it is.
Exactly, yeah. No, definitely. And then going back to the President's Cup, we've had our roving reporter Fareed out in Lahore today, and he said that a number of matches are being played behind closed doors. Was it due to security reasons?
I believe so, yeah. He said that because there wasn't any security, they couldn't let people into the ground. And we saw from some of the pictures that we saw actually how little security there was. I can't believe it, really. There's an opportunity here to showcase Pakistan's players to the public, and they don't get to see these players, obviously playing international cricket, and the PCB or whoever is in charge isn't willing to put the security there to allow people to come and watch. Again, I don't know how many people would actually show up, you know, during the day to watch a one-day game, but the opportunity should be there. If anybody wants to see the likes of Misbah Haq, Umar Iqbal, etc., they should be able to do that. You know, if you saw that in another country over here, that fans can't see their domestic teams, it'd be ridiculous. So, I mean, what do you think?
No, definitely. It's one thing not getting TV coverage, but for fans not being allowed into the stadium is just ludicrous. And I suppose it goes on to the next point about moving the semis and final to Karachi, which I believe was at the request of the broadcaster.
Absolutely, yeah. But I mean, I do have some sympathies here in the sense that we know how big a deal broadcasting is, and the people who have the rights, the TV rights, they do often call the shots. I think it was a couple of years ago where Sky Sports the ECB had to organise another 2 2020s against the West Indies because of the Stanford issues that happened. They had to forcefully have 2 more 2020s to fulfil their obligations with Sky Sports. So they do call the shots a little bit. Fine, they've moved to Karachi. Karachi's had not had many games so far, so I don't think that's a huge problem personally.
And we've seen it in football for years, haven't we? Monday night football, Tuesday night football, Wednesdays.
Yeah.
We see Friday night football as well, so that's all at the whims of the TV, wasn't it? It all used to be Saturday football, so...
Absolutely, yeah.
I suppose it's just progress.
They pay the money, so they do get a bit of a say, I imagine. Speaking of money, if we go on to a topic that we can't really miss at this time of year, and I'm sure we won't for a number of years now, it's the IPL. We won't go into details of actually what's going on there, but I just wanted to know your thoughts of what do you think about it as a whole? Obviously, Pakistanis aren't allowed to take part. Is it good for the game? You know, what do you think?
I don't mind the IPL. It's up to individuals whether they watch it or not. I personally don't watch it. In England, it's hidden away on ITV4, so you're not likely to come across it too easily. But it's up to individuals. Whatever nationality you are, or whichever team you support, whichever players you like, it's up to you whether you want to watch it or not. What really irks is the battles you see between people who like it and people who don't. I mean, you wouldn't... it's almost as if it's supporting a team rather than just a tournament. So people used to have allegiances to teams. Now you have allegiances. You're either pro IPL or anti IPL. When really, it is what it is.
Yeah, no, I'm sort of with you. I do actually like the IPL generally. When I've seen some of it, I followed a little bit of the matches, and as is the case with 2020, generally it's fun to watch because all the games tend to be fairly close. I mean, until the last 5 overs, you often don't know who's going to win. So, in that sense, it's always fun to watch. 2020 will always be fun to watch. Obviously, a topic that's hurts a lot of our Pakistani posters is the fact that Pakistani players, for some reason, aren't allowed. We made a point earlier that our coaches are there. Mushtaq Ahmed, Wasim Akramov coach there. Umpires are there. Aleem Dar's there. Commentators there. Ramiz Raja's there. So it's obviously not an issue with Pakistanis. It seems to be an issue with Pakistani players who aren't allowed, and it just seems very inconsistent, their approach really towards Pakistan.
Well, but I still think it's beneficial for the players. We've seen a lot of players, particularly in World T20, the ICC World T20, come in a little bit tired, whereas the Pakistani players always look quite fresh as they go into that tournament and tend to do quite well in it. So it may be the case that they're not earning as much money as their counterparts, but it certainly doesn't affect the standard of their cricket. In fact, it probably improves it because they're focusing on international cricket.
Does that mean that if Pakistani players in the future had the opportunity to play, would you prefer that they said no?
You can't stop an individual wanting to earn a living. We all do it to a certain extent. We're fans, and they're representing their nation rather than representing a private team. So there is a little bit of that, but I don't have anything against Pakistani players wanting to play in the IPL. Everyone's got a right to earn a living.
Right, finally we'll just move on to a discussion regarding our post of the week, which we will be announcing on all these shows in future. It should be coming up on screen now. It's a post by a poster called Bullet Drive, who talked about the future of Pakistan cricket. He named a number of players who he felt showed that Pakistan's future is in safe hands, likes of Junaid Khan, Ehsan Adil, we saw, Raza Hassan, we've talked about, Mohammad Rizwan, the keeper. What do you think generally, firstly about that post, and secondly about Pakistan's future?
I always enjoy reading Bullet Drive's posts because he does focus quite a lot on the future and looks on the bright side. And it's just part of the tone of Pakistani cricket historically, where we focus on exciting young players, and it's not just within Pakistan but outside of Pakistan. They're always interested to see the latest exciting talent breaking into the team. So hopefully it's good to see, despite some of the more difficult times, losing in particular a certain youngster a few years ago, that Pakistan can still focus on bringing in these exciting young talents.
Absolutely, yeah. He did mention in his post that under Misbah, these players don't necessarily get as many opportunities as you'd like, but I think that's a discussion for another time. I do agree with him, yeah, as in the future of Pakistan cricket does look very good. These names, when you see them together like he's put in this post, it does make you realise that, these guys are, very good, and hopefully they will be a part of Pakistan's cricket in the long term.
Definitely, but I think he's right. I don't think they'll get a chance under Misbah. Misbah's shown throughout his tenure that he's not really willing to take any risks. The fact that Umar Akmal doesn't get a game just proves that it's unlikely that we'll see any of these guys in.
Yep, well, we'll see what happens in the Champions Trophy squad and see if we take any risks and they go for the wild cards that we've suggested here today. Right, that's all for this week. Do join us again in a couple of weeks' time for the next instalment of PakPassion's View from the Pavilion.